What up, you awesome people? I'm Julian Lowenthal, and happy Wednesday, September 12th, 2024. Before we get into today's video, which is a full deep dive, full spoiler, full review, full chat about the Netflix documentary series, the program Cults and Kidnapping, really briefly, I just want to say a couple things, but I just want to warn you guys again, spoilers. I just finished all 3 episodes last night, binged at the rest because I got to 1.5 yesterday, binged it, the night before, binged it, got it done, and now we're going to go into it. But I just want to say, Savannah, I appreciate your comment, and you're right. I'm wasting way too much time criticizing the last video. Mistakes happen, and I'm just going to accept those, learn from them, and not do them. And I will say, I do have a few banked episodes, which at least 3 out of 4 of them do have me critiquing myself. But after what I'm about to say about last video and those banked episodes, I'm done wasting time critiquing. All I got to say about yesterday's video is that was a god-awful review of that intense but really, really powerful and great 3-episode documentary series. So let's dive right into it. Spoilers full ahead. Like I mentioned yesterday, it's just very disturbing, and I had a lot of trouble just being like, whoa, this is really happening. And what's scary is, backtrack, what's the show about? The program is a documentary from Catherine Kubler. Incredible documentarian in terms of the fact that she lived for 15 months a horrendous torture cult camp, which after you watch the show, it's hard to put into words some of the stuff that I just witnessed in a three episode show. But it's basically, these kids would go to these reform schools where they're supposed to be, these troubled kids go to this reform school where they're supposed to get fixed, in terms of like help. They'll come out a changed person. But what you don't, or what the parents don't know, because it's just a whole mind trip, is that they're actually paying for their kids to get tortured. And so it's all under this facade, this umbrella of, hey, we're going to help your troubled youth not be so troubled. When in fact, it's just a scheme to get as much money as possible, torturing, brainwashing children and their parents just for the bag. And I'm going to say, a terrible, terrible individual, Robert Litchfield, the man who created all of these messed up torture youth reform schools, is not in trouble, is not in jail. He's literally harmed, in terms of these programs, hundreds, if not thousands, probably thousands of children across the globe, because it's not just this one incident. The show takes place with Catherine Kubler and some of the other kids that went to this particular reform school. It was this Ivy Ridge, and it was this, basically it's now abandoned, so they went into this abandoned school again, and this was like a decade after having experienced this. And so she decides to, with her film equipment and with, I guess, Netflix's money, decides to go right in and document this. And I will say, clearly it's taken her a lot of time. She said in the documentary, it's been a 10-year process, just gathering all the information, finding out where the money all goes. Spoiler, Robert Litchfield and his family. Oh my God. And she's literally showcasing basically not only the school, but during this period where you get to see all the, it's a jail. It has so much jail properties, but these are children. Like Juvie is less disruptive to minors than this particular reform school, or all these reform schools from the Robert Litchfield family, from him. And what's really troubling is, even with this Netflix documentary broadcasting this really serious situation, Robert Litchfield's not only not in jail, but there's so many of these schools, both from his wing, from the Robert Litchfield wings, to other people that are just trying to cash in and exploit children for the bag. And what's so disturbing, just to jump ahead, is even with these reform schools getting shut down, the new ones just pop up. One gets shut down for illegally harming, traumatizing abusing children, and then a new one pops up. And what's crazy is there's evidence, video evidence of these teachers who aren't former teachers. Some of them are even just randomly put into this just because they're willing to do the position. They just beat the kids like a kid threw bread. And he died because 3 large guards just jumped on him and suffocated him. And that can't be the only incident of a death. And even the people that don't die from the messed up teachers in these reform schools, a lot of them commit suicide, and it was very troubling to hear that so many committed suicide. And those that are strong enough to not do that are traumatized, and their life is never the same after. And why? Because I keep beating around the bush of what happens. For anyone that hasn't seen it, I strongly suggest you watch this. Catherine Kubler, congratulations for not only making a very powerful, eye-opening documentary, but for being strong enough to go back into the school that tortured you, that brainwashed you, that destroyed 15 months of your childhood, which affected your family, your friends to this day. You're inspiring, Catherine. You're inspiring. But let's talk about the school. What's some of this stuff? Well, for one thing, you go to this school, and how does it happen? Well, some of the kids, might have done something as little as drank some beers, smoked a joint, didn't come home when they were supposed to, or maybe even a little bit more. Like they were disrespectful to their parents. But regardless, you shouldn't traumatize, potentially kill, torture your children just because they misbehave. Find other alternatives than subjecting them to something you don't even know, where anything could happen. Several of these kids got sexually abused, but even the ones that didn't got psychologically traumatized permanently for the rest of their life. It's not even just PTSD. There were the new ones like CPTSD, compounded post-traumatic stress disorder. And so it's like these kids, when they get into the school, they can never go outside. Like, there's a few exceptions, but the doors are locked. Once you're in, you can't go outside. And one of the many scams is, the instructors or the people tell the parents, it will only be X amount of time, and they keep extending it. They legally, because it's like, what is even legal or not legal if this is still happening? They were somehow able to hold these kids up until they're 18. At 18, because you're legally an adult, they had the option to just leave. But there was a 12-year-old, so think about that, 6 years in this cult isolation, tormenting, torturous school situation. Yes, and there were people between 12 to 17. And it's one of the many scam elements about that is the parents are paying more to have these kids get tortured than some colleges. They're paying more to have their kids get tortured. Then they could be investing that into their kids having a life. They could be helping their kids, putting that money towards their dreams, passions, and stuff that can help them. But no, they just invested money down a toilet or into Robert Litchfield's pockets to torture these kids. These kids, like some of the rules, let's just go over a couple of them because there's just so much. You can't talk. Off the rip, you can't talk unless you're giving a very specific permission. You talk, you get in trouble. Also, one of the people that's supposed to write basically why the kids are troubled lies. One of the adults, but one of the people in the documentary that was a kid years ago, I think for 2 years or so, she had a report. She never did drugs, didn't drink. And on the report, when she took, you don't know necessarily, but everyone had to take a piss test, a drug test. They did heinous things, like they made these kids get naked and strip searched naked, and then did all, and they're kids, and they did this in front of, others. They did this in front of some of the females had to do it in front of men. And regardless of even the females doing it in front of adult women, they're children. That's crazy to make them strip search, to make them have to it's unacceptable, to put it mildly. And so they get in trouble if they talk. They get in trouble if they look out a window, which is crazy because there's going to be some windows that's literally, they're setting traps. They can get in trouble just because the teacher had a bad day, or the the person looking at them, the instructor, is just doesn't like that person. And it's just crazy how they manipulated these girls. One of the people, which they don't ever fully say who, sexually abused one of the main characters, as well as probably many other females. And even though we never know, the very first episode kind of makes you think it was this one woman that had the nickname Sis, that she was a much bigger woman, not to fat shame, but just because I'm just saying that because she would sit on people who would they couldn't breathe, so they would black out. Several people almost died because of her methods. And these are kids. Again, no one should be tortured, but these are children. These are children. And what's so disturbing is even nowadays, in 2024, there's all these other messed up places that are just brainwashing, torturing children and destroying their childhood and their adulthood from these awful, I would say torturous camps. Like some of the kids that don't listen, they literally got shipped to a place, to this dog pen, full dog pen, huge dog pen, where they just had to walk laps for 8 hours. The stuff they made these people do. The isolation rooms are smaller than the hole in jail. It's crazy. And even in jail, not that I've ever dealt with this, I'm not trying to speak where I don't know. There was a bed where in this reform school, there's no beds. These kids just got tortured, destroyed. And I just want to say to any survivor, you're an inspiration. You're an inspiration. And it's just sad that even with these coming down, there's now some of the Robert Litchfield's family members, and I would imagine other people started these other programs where they would find adopted children. They would find children with mental challenges. They would find all different marginalized groups and do the same type of thing just for the bag. They don't care about the future. They don't care about these kids' lives. They just care about getting richer. And it's disturbing. How can you live with yourself? And even more importantly, how are they getting away? What type of world do we live in that is still happening and not federally illegal? I strongly suggest you go watch the program, Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping. I would love to hear your thoughts of the show. I'd love to hear if there's any survivors. Please tell us what you're willing to tell us, and please share anything you can and to help us. How are you able just to keep going? Because it's so inspiring, and I'm so tremendously proud of you. And wow, my heart just fully goes to you. And to any survivor, anyone who was lucky enough to not be in that situation, I just want you all to know, you're all wonderful. You're all wonderful, awesome beings. And if you want, please like this video to help support it and subscribe to continue on the journey. And we'll be back with another video tomorrow. But don't forget, you're awesome. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.